Dear friends, welcome back to my channel. Let's read. From the timeless collection of Ismat Chughtai, let's read The Rock. Let's begin with the story. When Bhabhi came to our house as a bride, she was no more than 15. She still had some growing up to do. In Bhaiya's presence, she trembled like a cow about to be butchered. But within a year, she was transformed from a tight lipped bud to a flower. Her body filled out, her hair became more lustrous, and the hunted look in her eyes was replaced by a look of confidence and mischief. Bhabhi came from a liberal family and had been schooled at a convent. The previous year, her sister had eloped with a Christian, so her parents worried that she might do something similar, took her out of the school, and quickly married her off. Having been raised in a modern household, she was as playful as a doe. But her parents and her in laws were keeping a close eye on her. Bhaiya was anxious to set her up as a housewife without delay because he was afraid that even though she was married, she might still follow in her sister's footsteps. As a result, he earnestly embarked on the task of molding her into a homemaker. In 4 or 5 years, with everyone's help, she turned into a complete housewife. As the mother of 3 children, she became overweight and ungainly. Amma fed her chicken soup and sweets, and Bhaiya, he furnished tonics. With each child, Bhabhi gained 10 or 15 pounds. Gradually, she stopped using makeup. Bhaiya hated lipstick, and the sight of mascara or kohl on a woman's eye infuriated him. But he liked pink and red, so Bhabhi generally wore pink or red clothes, red sari with a light pink blouse or a pink sari with a red blouse. She had short hair when she got married, but now it was plastered down and tied at the back so that no one could tell that the bride was a short-haired mame. Her hair had grown since then, but had become thin because of frequent pregnancies. She usually kept it tied in a ponytail with a dirty old rag. Her husband found her pleasing just the way she was, untidy and bedraggled. And her parents? Her parents and in laws also praised her simplicity. She was pretty, no doubt, fine features, a butter white complexion, and a small dainty hands and feet. But she had let herself go, and her body slackened like dough left out overnight. Bhaiya was 9 years her senior, but compared to her, he looked really young, still quite slim, with a well kept figure. He exercised daily, carefully monitored his diet, smoked only on occasion, and once in a while took a sip of whiskey or beer. He was still boyish in appearance. Although he was 31, he didn't look a day older than 25. Oh, how Bhaiya hated jeans and skirt! He was also repelled by the sight of tight skirts and shirts hugging the body, and particularly despised shalwars that were tight at the ankles. Anyway, Bhabhi, the poor thing, couldn't get into a shalwar and kameez anymore, and generally went around the house dressed in a blouse and petticoat with a dressing gown thrown over them. It was an informal guest. She stayed as she was, and if someone special came to the house unexpectedly, she chose to stay in her room with the children. When forced to make an appearance, she would come out wearing a rumpled, mousy colored sari. She was a housewife, a daughter in law, and she was everyone's darling. Why should she dress up and deck herself out like a prostitute to please people? And it's quite possible that Bhabhi would have continued in this bedraggled and untidy state until she became middle aged and then old. She would have brought home daughter in laws who would come to her every morning, respectfully offering salutations, and then deposit her grandson into her lap to hold and to play with. But God had other plans. It was evening. We were all having tea in the lawn. Bhabhi had gone to the kitchen to fry pappers. The cook had over fried them, and Bhaiya liked them lightly browned. He glanced lovingly at Bhabhi, and she immediately got up to the kitchen to fry some more for him. We calmly continued drinking tea. Oh, what was Bhabhi but an angel? I could never persuade to go to the kitchen after I returned from college, and my evening clothes were specially unsuited for cooking. In addition, I don't know how to fry peppers. My sisters were also in the same boat as me. Farida was entertaining her fiance who had come for a visit. Razia and Shamim were busy chatting with their friends, and certainly they couldn't be expected to fry peppers. Anyway, we were all little birds in our parents' home, testing our wings for flight. Boom! The football landed right over Bhaiya's cup. We all jumped. Bhaiya snapped angrily. Who is this idiot? He was looking in the direction from where the ball had come. A round curly haired head and a pair of large eyes appeared over the hedge. In one leap, Bhaiya has over the edge, and the culprit's hair was in his grasp. Ouch! The sound of a scream filled the air, and in the next instant, Bhaiya reared as if stung by a scorpion, or as if he had taken hold of a live coal. Oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. He was stuttering. All of us ran to see what was going on. Standing on the other side of the hedge was a slight, fair complexioned girl dressed in white drain pipes and a lemon colored blouse. She was running her slender fingers through short haircut, Marilyn Monroe style, and laughing sheepishly. We started laughing too. Bhabhi returned with a plate of pappers and, presuming there was something funny going on, joined in our laughter. Without really knowing what had happened, her loose stomach bounced as she laughed, and when she discovered Bhaiya had mistaken Shabnam for a boy and had caught her by the hair, she laughed even louder, and pieces of papad went flying from plate in her hand and landed on the grass. Shabnam informed us she had arrived at her uncle Shahid Jamil's house that very morning, and when she got bored doing nothing, she came out to play football, which landed on Bhaiya's cup. Shabnam was staring at Bhaiya with her sharp, mascara-laden eyes. Stunned into magical silence, Bhaiya was gazing at her. There was a current darting between them. Cut off from this current, Bhabhi seemed to be miles away from them. Her bouncing stomach became fearful and was stilled. Laughter stumbled on her lips and died. Her hands became limp, the plate tilted to one side, and the papads slid and fell on the grass. All of a sudden, Bhaiya and Shabnam awakened and returned from the world of dreams. Come and have some tea, Shabnam, I said, giving the still atmosphere a little nudge. In one graceful leap, Shabnam swung over the hedge to our side. Tiny moccasins began pouncing on them, and the green grass like a pair of doves. Her complexion glowed like the molten gold. Her hair was jet black, but her eyes reminded one of small black goblets filled with honey. The neckline of her lemon blouse was very low. Her lips were pink, a model for an American ad. Although she appeared to be much taller than Bhabhi, the difference in their heights couldn't be more than 2 inches. She had a delicate bone structure, which is why her waist looked like it could fit into a ring. Bhaiya sat lost in silence. Bhabhi was watching him the way a cat watches a bird getting ready to take off, waiting to pounce as soon as it flap its wing. Her face was red, her lips were pressed together, her nostrils flared. Without warning, Munna came and jumped on her back just then. He always jumped on his mother's back like this only, as if he were a soft pillow, and she always laughed at his antics. Today, she slapped him hard, twice. Shabnam became agitated. Oh, stop her, please. She touched Bhaiya's hand. Then she turned to me. Your mother's easily angered, she said. Introductions are rare in our society, and it seemed strange to introduce Bhabhi. Her appearance was unmistakably that of a daughter-in-law of the house. We all burst out laughing at Shabnam's remark. Dragging Munna by the hand, Bhabhi went into the house. No, she is not my mother. She is our sister-in-law, I said, watching Bhabhi trudge away. Your sister-in-law? Shabnam looked astounded. You mean Bhaiya's wife? Oh, she lowered her eyes. I see. She continued in a serious tone and then stopped mid-sentence. Bhabhi is only 23, I explained. But don't be silly, she laughed. At this point, Bhaiya got up and left. I swear. Oh, lack of education. No, Bhabhi graduated at 15 from St. Mary's. You mean she's 3 years younger than me? I'm 26. In that case, certainly she is younger than you. Oh God, and I thought she was your mother? Actually, my eyesight is quite bad and I hate wearing glasses. Do you think she is upset with me? No, Bhabhi is never upset. Oh, poor thing. Who, Bhabhi? I don't know why I said that. Bhaiya dotes on his wife, Shamim said, coming to Bhabhi's defense. The poor man must have been married when he was really young. He was 26. But I don't know, people in the 20th century got married without seeing each other first, Shabnam said derisively. All your conjectures are incorrect. Bhaiya saw Bhabhi liked her immensely and then they were married. But at that time she was as delicate and beautiful as a lily. But so what happened to her after she got married? What could have happened? Bhabhi is the mistress of her house, queen among her children, not a film actress. At any rate, Bhaiya despises thin, skinny girls. I deliberately took a jab at her. She wasn't stupid. Well, I don't care if somebody loves me or not. I am not going to turn my body into a baby elephant. Excuse me, but your sister-in-law? She must have been beautiful once, but now? Your viewpoint is entirely different from Bhaiya's, I said evasively. And when she walked toward the hedge, taking small steps, her lean body swinging, Bhaiya was standing in the veranda. His face was ashen white, and again he rubbed the back of his neck with his hands, as if someone had placed burning cinders on it. She skipped over the hedge like a bird. Turning for a moment, she gave Bhaiya a honeyed look and then disappeared into the bungalow in a flash. Bhabhi was bent over in the lawn, picking up the tea things, but she was the invisible strand that had sprung up between Bhaiya and Shabnam. One day, I saw Shabnam from the window, dressed in a fluffy red skirt with a white blouse open at the neck. She was dancing the samba with Pappu, her cousin. Her little peckneys bounded between her legs. She was laughing loudly. Her well-shaped, voluptuous legs pirouetted on the green grass, and her black, silken hair flew in the air. 5-year-old Pappu was kicking around like a monkey. But she swayed like an intoxicated female serpent. Once she made a face at me, and I showed her my fist. But soon I realized her gesture was not meant for me. Bhaiya was standing in the veranda, massaging the back of his neck, and she was tormenting him with her teasing. Her waist was gyrating, her hips moved from side to side, her arms fluttered, her mouth was open, and her lips quivered. My heart convulsed. Bhabhi was in the pantry doling out the daily portion of the grain to the cook. Shabnam, you wretch, I said to myself. But I was also angry with Bhaiya. Why was he grinning? He hated all these things. Now he was repelled by the English dances. Why then did he stand there staring at her? And why was he so overcome that his body moved to the rhythm of the samba without his knowledge? About this time, the houseboy came out to the lawn with tea. Bhaiya summoned all of us and instructed the houseboy to get Bhabhi. A sense of formality compelled us to ask Shabnam to join us. I wanted to turn my face away from her, but when she climbed over the hedge, with Munna perched on her shoulders, for some reason she seemed perfectly innocent to me. Munna hung on to her scarf as if it were reins. Bhaiya tried to get Munna off her back, but he clung to her stubbornly. Let the horse run some more, auntie. No, my dear, auntie is exhausted, Shabnam yelled. With great difficulty, Bhaiya got Munna off and smacked his face. Distressed by his action, Shabnam immediately picked up the child and slapped Bhaiya's hand. Aren't you ashamed? You as big as a camel and striking a small child? Seeing Bhabhi approach, she handed Munna over to her. Bhaiya smiled at the slap he had received from Shabnam. Look how hard he hit the poor thing. If someone tried to hit my child, I'll break his hand. The honey in her eyes was shot with poison as she glared at Bhaiya. And on top of everything, He's laughing shamelessly? Do you have the strength to break someone's hand? Bhaiya twisted her wrist. She turned and let out such a scream that Bhaiya was alarmed and quickly let go of her. She fell on the grass, gasping with laughter. Shabnam's antics continued during tea. She behaved like a young, mischievous girl. Bhabhi sat in stunned silence. You would think that threatened with Shabnam's presence, she would start taking care of herself? No, not at all. She became more shabby in appearance and ate with added vigor. We were all busy laughing, but she kept her head down and proceeded to devour the cake with intense concentration. She ravenously swallowed fried potatoes dipped in chutney and rapidly gulped down the pieces of toast laden with butter and jam. Bhaiya and Shabnam had become a source of apprehension for us, and Bhabhi must have been worried too. But she was burying her dread in rich foods. Constantly suffering from gastric distress, she nevertheless managed to successfully digest pulao and korma with the aid of churn. Her gaze fell restlessly upon Shabnam and Bhaiya as they chuckled and talked. Bhaiya looked younger than before. Every morning and evening he went with Shabnam to swim in the ocean. Bhabhi could also swim, but Bhaiya hated women in bathing suits. One day we were all swimming. Wearing only two tiny strips, Shabnam was executing serpentine moves in the water. Just then, Bhabhi, who had been looking for Munna, made an appearance. Bhaiya was in a playful mood. He caught hold of her, and together we all pushed her into the water. Since Shabnam's arrival, Bhaiya had become quite roguish. He would lovingly grind his teeth and squeeze Bhabhi in front of us, or sometimes he would try to pick her up in his arms. But she would slip from his hands like a big fish, leaving him feeling a little foolish. Perhaps in his imagination it was Shabnam he was lifting in his arms. Wet clothes clung to her body and revealed her unshapely figure, a frightening sight. It seemed as though someone had wrapped a comforter around her waist. She didn't look that horrible when dressed in normal clothes. Oh my God, how fat you are! Bhaiya exclaimed, squeezing a lump of fat on her buttock. Oh my goodness, just look at your tummy. You look just like Gama, the wrestler. After 4 children, my waist. I also have 4 children, and my waist hasn't been transformed into a Dunlop tire. He patted his lean, solid body with his hands. Bhabhi made a sour face and walked away looking like wet chicken, pulling Munna with her as she dragged her feet heavily in the sand. Ignoring her, Bhaiya proceeded to plonk Shabnam in the water. But she is more clever. When they returned from their swim, they saw Bhabhi arranging a layer of cream over apricot jam. Her head was lowered, her eyes were red, her lips were white, and her doll-like plump cheeks were puffier than usual. At lunch, Bhabhi looked extremely unhappy. She proceeded to consume the apricot jam and cream with the ardor. Shabnam looked at the dish and shuddered as though it contained not apricots but snakes and scorpions. No, 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 it's poison, she said, nibbling on the slice of a cucumber. Bhaiya glared at Bhabhi, but she continued to gobble up the jam noisily. This is enough, he muttered, his nostrils flaring. Bhabhi paid no attention to him and emptied nearly the entire dish of apricots into her stomach. Seeing her devour the jam in this manner, you feel as if she were building a dam to halt the storm of envy and jealousy. The cream would be converted to granite and make the castle that was her body invincible. Stop! For the God's sake! The doctor said you shouldn't. What kind of toothsomeness is this? Bhaiya finally said. Bhabhi melted like a wax. Bhaiya's remark cut through the layers of fat and plunged into her heart. Thick tears trickled down her puffy cheeks. Sobs racked the pile that was her body and caused a tremor like an earthquake. Slim, delicate-looking girls look so attractive when they cry. But seeing Bhabhi cry, one was amused rather than saddened. She looked like a heap of cotton wool that was being thrashed with sticks. Wiping her nose, she started to get up, but we scolded Bhaiya and cajoled her into swaying. The poor thing sniffled and sat down again. But as soon as she had deposited 3 spoonfuls of sugar in her coffee and extended her hand towards the cream. She became inert. With a fearful expression in her eyes, she looked at Bhaiya and Shabnam. Shabnam curbed her Twitter with great difficulty, and Bhaiya fumed. Things just got worse after this. Bhabhi openly declared war. Dear friends, this was the end of part 1. Part 2 will be uploaded soon tomorrow. Please stay tuned for part 2 and do not forget to like, share and subscribe the channel.